What's something that you consider a red flag that others might consider a green flag? I feel like this is different depending on the age demographic, but bragging about your spouse on social media. I was at a women's event where a speaker in her late 50s or early 60s was going on about how she loved seeing how some of the women in the room bragged openly on Facebook about how great their husbands were, nice things they do, and how she loved seeing those healthy relationships. The women around me were rolling their eyes because of course we all knew that posts like that are code for, "My marriage sucks and I'm trying to compensate by making others think everything's great." We never fight, argue. When I hear this about a couple, I think it's possible they actually don't communicate well and or one or both of them is conflict averse, which is bad. Conflict is not the same as abuse. It's inevitable in a healthy relationship and shouldn't be super scary. I added argue with fight, because in this context it's the same. The idea is that they feel they have a conflict-free relationship and, as I say, this could possibly mean that they have issues communicating or tolerating healthy amounts of conflict. When she says she's loyal, married girl at my job won't stop finding reasons to touch me, and we'll have full-blown conversations about us having sex. Pretty sure right time and place would completely destroy her marriage. And she tells me I'm loyal the other day. But you just told me you'd eat my jizz? Cheating ex posted about loyalty on FB. Few other girls I've hooked up with who either cheated on their mans with a friend of mine or myself post about it occasionally. About being good women who deserve things, lol. Reversed, I find this a green flag, but I've noticed other people think it's a red flag. Having time to fully disconnect from your partner. I love having weeks here and there when I'm away or my partner is away and we don't talk that much, maybe just a text once or twice. I like knowing I can get some independent time and that we both function fine without each other. I have friends on the other hand, that really need communication and check-ins each day and get really upset or suspicious if their partner doesn't do that. Not talking to the other people while in a relationship, like in general not talking to other women as friends because you have a girlfriend. I get if it's their own decision to do that, but if it's a forced thing by their partner, they can fuck off and either build some trust or break up, smiley face. I guess just the whole "my girl boyfriend told me not" thing. Excuse me if I don't want my SO to be a controlling parent too. Not sure why people find it okay to be so controlling, having a large social media presence. I personally could not care less if people knew what was going on in my life, but I understand when people might want to post a few things here and there, especially big things like having a kid or getting married or whatever. But when they need to post everything they do or spend their whole day on social media, it makes me question whether they do things because they like to, or because they want other people to see them doing it. Back when I was dating, guys who were super fit and muscled and showed it off in their profiles, I bet most women would go ooh, handsome and try to match with them, but it was a no for me. I would worry a guy like that would drop a girl like a bad habit if she falls off of her gym routine even a bit. I would also worry that because he thinks so much of his looks, he wouldn't hesitate to drop me if he finds someone better looking, thinking hey, I deserve it. Having a very close relationship with their parents' siblings. I'm not talking about a regular respectful, healthy relationship. I'm talking about people who are being called, texted by their family on a daily basis, constantly being asked to help out with kids' holidays, etc., going to family functions every weekend. A lot of people desire this close-knit family dynamic, but it's not how I want to interact with my family, and it doesn't work for me. Too exhausting. Family comes first. No matter what. No exceptions. I guess I was just raised that way. No, thank you. Families can sometimes be awful and toxic, and then you should be prioritizing other people. You were raised that way because your family wants you to see life as them versus everyone else, and even the benign versions of that suck. Prioritize people based on their actions, not whether you can trace back to the same uterus within 3 generations. I'm always skeptical when people say they're an empath. My belief is that truly empathetic individuals don't focus on their own perceived empathy. To use kind of a tasteless metaphor, it's kind of how rich people don't talk about money much. So my gut reaction is to feel like I'm going to converse with someone who has a rush to judgment, or maybe even someone who's more self-interested but wants to feel justified in it. No friends of the opposite gender. I assume that either one, you can't keep it in your pants and the only solution you found was to stay away from the opposite gender, or 2, you can't get along with the opposite gender and that doesn't bode well for us in the long run. Like you're gonna tell me that you made it into adulthood without making a single lasting connection with at least one man and one woman? That's weird, but being very hardworking and career-oriented. They tend to be distant once the early fun days are over and will pick work over life most of the time. I'd rather have a fun-loving partner and live less high on the hog than have a partner who spends 80 of their free time working or talking about work-related things. Like work's over now, it's time to fuck around and talk about fun stuff. Someone boasting about their state benefits. Most people see it as a good thing when someone qualifies for it, but me being a hard-working taxpayer who was denied it while I was starving and working 2 jobs, anytime somebody mentions it around me I feel nothing but burning hatred for them, and it's a red flag to me that I need to be well away from them. Anyone who gets super into pop psychology regarding relationships. Stuff like love languages. It's okay to utilize that kind of stuff to help express yourself, but anyone who sees that kind of stuff as the absolute truth is not good. Each relationship is different and changes throughout. There's not final, permanent category that fits always. A guy who'll get in someone's face if they insult me, and will defend my honor. No thanks. I've seen some people who seem to think it's romantic, even if the guy is literally starting fights, but all I see is a nasty temper I want nothing to do with. You can stand up for someone while also knowing what battles are worth fighting. Talking like a TikTok psychotherapist, every single situation or interaction is about trauma and healing and setting boundaries and weirdly medicalized. Being aware of your mental and emotional health is definitely good, but when every moment or feeling is pathologized it definitely crosses into red flag territory. When someone describes themselves as career-driven on a dating app. Nothing objectively wrong with being motivated, but here in Toronto, anybody I've met who described themselves that way, their work was their entire personality, their obsession, and they had no life of any kind underneath it. Crystals, energy, religious, astrology, but only if it's like a core personality trait and not just it's fun to believe type thing. Calls more than 2-3 people narcissists. Places fault on other people for everything negative in their life. When their friends shit talk men often. If he's driving around in a fancy car. I'm frugal and don't think it's wise to spend so much money on a fancy ass car. It also could be a sign that he cares too much about his appearance, and also possible that he can even afford that car, he's just massively in debt. Friends with exes, especially if it's a bunch of exes. Either you make a habit of sleeping with platonic friends or you have a lot of difficulty letting people go. Neither appeals to me. Doesn't help that most people I know that cheated did so with exes or friends. Watch Disney Hollywood TV garbage. I've yet to meet someone who watched these things regularly, but is extremely open-minded and great at critical thinking and logical thinking. At work, at different jobs, at hobby clubs or some sort of community, etc. Never met one talking about how much money they have or how many nice and expensive things they have. We all like money. How nice for you that you have plenty of money. If you gotta talk about it all the time, it's probably the best thing about you, which speaks volumes. I'm getting downvoted to hell for this. Calling themselves a Christian. Not liking sport football, specifically. Being a workaholic. Being a smoker. Doing drugs. Being vegetarian, or even worse, vegan. Being jealous, overprotective, controlling. Having a best friend of the opposite sex. No one will ever convince me that it is inherently bad. It can be bad, but it's also possible your partner could cheat on you with someone of the same sex. If you don't trust your partner, why are you together? Trauma bonding. Yeah, good idea. Let's premise our entire relationship off our previous suffering. I get understanding and supporting each other knowing what we've been through, but it makes for a pretty toxic foundation to build solely upon. At Corporation Incorporated we treat everyone like family. Which really means they are going to call you at all hours of the day, expect you to work on your day off and give you cookies, pizza, coffee as a reward instead of actual pay raises. Being rich. No thanks. Either they work at all hours, often in morally questionable jobs positions, or they have always had wealth and cannot relate to everyday problems. Neither of which is what I'd be looking for in a partner. Arguing constantly. Don't get me wrong, I argue with my husband now and then, but arguing before you've had breakfast day in day out isn't healthy. It's not a mature, respectful, or decent way to communicate with your other half. Someone being too religious. I don't have any issues that just believe in God anything other and do the worship. I just find someone that is overly religious, and tries to make other people religious even after they reject it, getting a huge amount of attention. Even if they handle it well, it's still very mentally draining to be around someone who gets a lot of attention. Plus, the more options someone has, the less likely they are to commit. A lot of the time people love it when they meet someone who seems super helpful and generous. For me, It puts me on the lookout for someone who has trouble with boundaries or who has low self-esteem. These answers after absolute trash. Red flag: others consider green and we've got religious, we're a family and jealousy. Absolute standard Reddit answers. It's like the whole thread is bots and AIs. Me talking to some friends, she was judging me for my Android phone giving her the green text bubbles, that was a big red flag. Friend, I think your green text bubbles are red flag. People who are overly friendly or charming. It can sometimes be a smokescreen for narcissism, but not always. I stay back and observe them and the people around them first before deciding. No social media. I know a few girls who think that's the greenest flag ever. I don't mean like he has to share every aspect of his life but no social media? Nah, that's a murder. Family first: people that I'd do anything for my family types. All that means in the long term is that you, as a spouse, will be playing second fiddle to your in-laws. No thanks. Having totally cut contact with all of their exes. Sometimes relationships don't end well, but if they all don't end well, there's only one common denominator in all of those. Rainbow-colored hair is a big one. Of course, I'm out of college now and that sort of thing is mostly for teens and other children, so it's not quite as regular as it used to be. If they say they are a Libra, that's a red flag. If they say they are a Capricorn, that's a red flag. If they say they are any sign, that's a red flag. Astrology is dumb. Too friendly too fast. If someone introduces themselves and immediately starts acting like a close friend, they usually want something from me. That's not friendship.